Okay, today we are playing a game on Eichenwald. The average SR of this game was 2,464, and we will be playing roughly half of the game as Winston and roughly half of the game as D.Va. And our current team composition is Winston, Zarya, Reaper, Genji, Ana, and Lucio. So a rare occasion where I'm basically totally fine with the team composition. I would personally prefer if Zarya was playing D.Va, but that's just personal preference. It's not like an objective improvement or anything. I will also say, if the enemy team has a Pharah, we are going to have trouble killing the Pharah, but whether or not you can kill Pharah is just one of those uncertainties that you have to deal with in life, really. You can have all the Pharah counters in the world, but you don't know if you're actually going to be able to kill the Pharah until you actually see the Pharah in the wild. It's basically Schrodinger's counter. Pharah exists in a countered and uncountered state until observed. I don't know what I'm talking about, no. So, in the accompanying electronic mail, it says, I have grown less and less fond of attacking on Eichenwald. Even Hanamura's gate feels easier to dive through than Eichenwald's, and I confess a growing desire to do it the old-fashioned way of Rhine front, walk forward, make space. How does one play dive on Eichenwald? Well, the answer to that question is it's really fucking hard, as is just generally attacking on Eichenwald, I find, because the first choke point is very, very obnoxious. So let's start the game and we'll address that as we go through. So, we do have a dive comp. Reaper's a bit of an unusual member, but he dives, he goes in, he shoots people point blank, so we have a dive comp. So, one thing I generally find easier to do on Eichenwald, sort of in general, but with the dive comp in particular, is most people try to go this way. That's usually really hard to do, because the enemy team is going to be gathered up in this area, generally speaking, because I mean, you can see into the choke point really easily and really far away, so they just sit back here and shoot into the choke point. You know, we've all played on Eichenwald before. So I find whenever somebody's playing Winston or D.Va, they tend to dive directly in this direction. But that's diving straight into their entire team, which is not usually what you're trying to do when you're playing a dive comp, unless you've got like a really specific plan laid out, where you're gonna like bubble Winston as he jumps in, and everybody's just gonna like death ball in. But that's a little bit more coordination than we can expect in the wild, really. So we don't usually want to jump straight onto the enemy team. We usually want to find people who are off by themselves and pick them off and just, like, dive on their face. That's sort of what Winston's trying to do in general, but so I find it's easier to go this way, because there's usually nobody over here. You're going to find, like, one or two people in this area, and the enemy team's going to be over here, so they're going to have to rotate one way round to actually get to you. And if they rotate poorly, like they stagger, you'll kill the person that staggers in first, because I find what usually happens is I go around this way, like a Zenyatta comes up the backside, and then I just kill the Zenyatta, and then it's kinda easy money at that point. So I find going that way is generally easier. There's also more cover to work with over here, because there's corners, of course, and the upturned car in the middle of the road. Whereas over here, there's basically nothing. And you're diving straight into the enemy team. There's also like a small health kit in here as well, which is not, you know, inconsequential. And there's one down there as well in the like ramp down. So that's something. Go over that way instead of that way. That way is really hard to get through. But in general, the hardest thing with executing a dive comp correctly and getting through a hard choke point like on Eichenwald is just getting your team to go, because you kind of have to all go at once, really. And you know, we've played Overwatch, we know how it is. Alright, so anyway, enough of that for now. So we see Lucio over there, and we try to jump on him, we misalign it, and we faceplant into the wall, which is obviously not great. But we've also gotten kind of fucked up by the time we even get in there, because we've had to go right past Reinhardt to do this. This is an example, in my opinion, of trying too hard to make something work when you haven't really been given that much of an opportunity. Because Lucio's not exactly by himself, and if the Lucio plays it right, he'll actually just get away from you anyway. Because the correct response to when a Winston jumps on your face as Lucio is put into speed boost, boop him away, and then just walk away from him, really. So you shouldn't get to kill him, really, unless your team actually comes in, like, with you. Because he's not actually that off by himself or out of the way, and it's hard for you to kill Lucio just by yourself as Winston unless you're given an opportunity. So, that's trying too hard to make something work. So we look at their team right here, though, and we're actually feeling pretty good about it, because they've got a lot of things we like to fight as Winston. Like, we're okay with all of these people. All of these people we can fight. Lucio, as we just established, is sometimes hard to kill if the Lucio plays it well unless we give it an opportunity or we've got some assistance, because he can just kind of like run away from us. But Genji, Zenyatta, Sombra, we kill all of these people pretty easily unless they have assistance. We're not good at fighting these people because Mei, I mean, she's just going to freeze us and then bully us, and we're never going to kill the Mei in a million years because we're playing Winston. And Winston is just generally bad at fighting tanks, so obviously we're not going to beat Reinhardt. So we just want to avoid these two, and we should be good because we can fight all of these people. And they're also really bad at helping each other for the most part, because Genji can only kill you to help people, as Winston, like, he can't deflect anything we do. Zenyatta, he can only really kill you to help, or kill you if you're diving on him. Sombra can hack you, but that's not really the end of the world for Winston, really, unless you're in Primal Rage, then you're going to be really sad. So, and we're just doing AoE damage, so it shouldn't be hard to interrupt her anyway. So the best person they have to actually help someone on their team out of those 4 people is Lucio, because he can like push you away from the person. So as long as we avoid these people, we should be good, really. Mei is going to be a problem, but, you know, we've got, like, Zarya and Reaper should really be able to deal with that. We shouldn't have to worry about it. So we're feeling pretty good looking at that team, actually, because we're actually good at fighting 4 out of 6 of its members. So we come over here, we find Sombra. We have sort of left our bubble in not that much of a helpful location, because all we see when we jump over here is Sombra. And it does look like our team is actually fighting something over in that direction. But we sort of leave our, we just immediately leave our bubble behind, so we haven't put it in a very good location. We do sort of want to put it in, like, the most inconvenient space for the enemy team. Like, if we dropped it right around here, that would make it really awkward for their team. Reinhardt, if he's got Earth Shatter, he's going to have trouble doing it because of the bubble. We're going to block all of them because our team is coming up this way behind us, so we'd block off their entire team from shooting into our team. So this would be a better place to put the bubble than just on top of the Sombra, who is not going to stay there. So, we dived in further and then sort of immediately gave it up to go look for that health kit. We could have killed that Sombra probably, because she's actually still really low HP, and we just jumped right over her. So we might have been able to kill the Sombra right there if we focused on her instead of coming over here to get the health kit. I'm not sure why we felt so pressured to come over here, because we're still, like, pretty healthy when we jump in. Yeah, because we take less than 100 damage when we get in here, and then we come in here out of the way. We could have just been fighting. We didn't have to just, like, give it up and come over here. We could have just been fighting out here. Probably would have killed the Sombra because their only healers are Lucio and Zenyatta as well, so they're not actually about to, like, spike heal her up, really. So, we did see Zenyatta in that doorway over there. In there. We want to go kill this guy. This guy has, like, completely separated himself from his team because he's off in this little corridor by himself. We should go over there and start bullying him. Now, it is kind of spooky to walk Zenyatta down in a corridor. But our bubble was about to be up and we actually got bubbled by Zarya. However, then Reinhardt did come over and kind of boop us out of the way, but then we just sort of give up on it. Reinhardt didn't get the pin on us. Reinhardt's really bad at killing tanks if he doesn't get the pin, because all he does is 75 damage per swing. Because we still have our bubble up, we might be able to kill the Zenyatta anyway, because Zenyatta shouldn't be able to hit you through the bubble, really, if we dance correctly. So now instead we're running down the Genji, not the Zenyatta. Genji's like giving us a run for our money. Now they've all got sound barrier HP, so things have suddenly gotten very awkward for us, and we have to leave. So the thing is, like, during this entire fight, we basically don't focus on anybody, and really we want to find like the most important person who is like rough on their own, really, that we can bully to death. And we might have been able to kill the Sombra. Said like 9 names that were wrong right there. We might have been able to kill the Sombra if we just stayed on her a little bit more. I still think we could kill that Zenyatta right there, even though Reinhardt came over to help him. Just because Reinhardt doesn't do that much damage to tanks unless he pins you. And now we're trying to get the Genji. We switch back and forth a lot of times. We don't really try to focus anyone down. By the time we try to focus down the Genji, he's got sound barrier on him now, so it's just not going to work out. And now we're kind of boned. We didn't actually kill anybody in this entire fight, despite being given a fairly good opportunity by the enemy team. We didn't really capitalize on it. So we should be trying to, like, focus down the important people more, which is basically their supports. Their supports are not great at fending us off. And then Sombra is also good to kill because we don't want our team to get emped, because that feels really bad. Sombra's ult is the strongest ult in the game, as far as I'm concerned. At time of speaking, when Zarya's ult gets buffed, that's probably going to be the strongest ult in the game. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, the Emp is the strongest ult in the game. Granted, it does require your team to actually be on the same page as you. So, not even the same page as you, they have to be on, like, the same paragraph as you, you know? So, it's generally hard to execute well unless you have some people there with you, but the Emp is really fucking strong. Because suddenly, most heroes in the game are no longer heroes in the game when they're hacked. So we are going in right now. We have Primal Rage, so we're feeling it. Unfortunately, Reinhardt uses Earth Shatter right as we go in, so our team can't really follow us. Honestly, as soon as I see that happening back there, I wouldn't use Primal Rage anymore, because it's not going to work out. Our team just got emped and Earth Shattered, so they're basically fucked. So, we might as well just accept the death, because in all likelihood some people over there are gonna die, and there's nothing we're gonna be able to do by ourselves, so... would have just held the ult right there. So we've changed to D.Va right now. I don't think that's the correct decision, because basically we've become a lot worse at fighting several people on their team. We're a lot worse at fighting Genji now. We are worse at fighting Lucio. We are debatably worse at fighting Sombra. We're roughly the same at killing Zenyatta, but we've suddenly become much weaker to, Mei. Mei fucks D.Va's day up really badly, because you just get frozen and bullied. I actually think Mei is quite strong right now, because Mei in general is pretty good against most dive comp heroes, because she's good against D.Va. She is good against Genji. She's pretty good against Reaper, unless the Reaper is a god. She is not great against Tracer, but she can still zone the Tracer off, you know? She will also bully around Winston, but it's harder to bully around Winston because he has his bubble. D.Va does not have that. The defense matrix does nothing. So I think that this was not the correct decision, because we have become significantly worse at fighting some of their team, and we are now much weaker to getting killed by Mei. Well, not really killed by Mei. Mei isn't usually going to be the one that kills the D.Va, but she is going to facilitate your death quite easily, because if you get frozen in front of the enemy team, you will have a bad day. So, pro tip, if the enemy team has a D.Va and it's causing you some trouble, consider picking Mei. Consider picking Mei in general, because she's pretty good against most dive comp heroes, actually. And then be sad if they pick Pharah. But that's, you know, as we established though, that's something you have to deal with in this game. You'll just might kind of be sad anyway. So we're now standing in the choke point, sort of waiting for our opportunity to come in. We probably changed to D.Va because we felt like we were having trouble getting through the choke point, and D.Va's a slightly better, like, main tank than, Winston is. Well, I mean, she's a much better main tank than Winston is. If you're gonna go with that line of thinking, though, I think you might as well just pick Reinhardt, really, because if the plan is, I'm having trouble walking through the choke point, so I'm gonna change to D.Va, you might as well just change to Reinhardt, because D.Va's not really gonna facilitate that any better than a Winston is. So, you might as well just pick Reinhardt, even if Reinhardt is not very good right now, because he's currently still not functioning correctly. If that is the line of thinking. I'm not you. Obviously, I don't know. But I do feel like this was not the correct decision we made here. So, in here, we find Sombra. Mei was also in here, so we did not want to do this, because Mei is the one that's going to fuck our day up. Like, we see Sombra, that's fair enough. You know, we can go in on the Sombra and try to make her sad. But Mei's here. Even though Mei's purple, Mei is still going to make it really difficult for us to, like, be D.Va in here. And that's exactly what's happening. Zarya does come in and bail us out, but really we should have probably lost our mech for that one. So, Sound Barrier has now happened, and we've been nano-boosted, but we're also being made frosty by Mei. So we didn't actually get to do too much done there. I do kind of wonder if that was accidental, because Reaper just used Death Blossom. So I don't know if she was, like, aiming for him or not. It's hard to tell if you're not from the Ana's perspective, but it seems like a bit weird. So we didn't really get to do anything with the nano boost because we got frozen. Feels bad, man. We did just make Reinhardt really fucking sad right there. Let's go back and watch that one again in slow motion, just because the way he disappeared over the edge was kind of funny to me. Oh, we're gonna get this. We're gonna beat him up. Oh, fuck. He's actually just gone really fucking far. And he held his shield up the whole way, like, no, please, not like this. Poor Reinhardt. I've been that Reinhardt before. So, over there, we see that Genji is now using his ultimate. It's really hard for us to deal with that because we are playing D.Va. Though, he is dead. He did kill 2 of our team, which is obviously not good, but it's not as bad as it could have been. So, here's Mei. Here's also Lucio. And here's also Zenyatta. So Mei is here. Mei's going to make it really difficult for us. We've now also been hacked by Sombra. Most of our team is actually currently dead. So the enemy team just sort of recollects and kills us very quickly. That was going to happen to us regardless of if we were Winston or not. But if we were Winston, we would have had a better time fighting those people because we could dance in and out of our bubble to fight the Mei and the Sombra. But seeing as most of our team was dead, we probably lost the fight regardless. So, we do have most of Self-Destruct built up, which I mean is cool and all, but like, Zarya just used her ultimate, so she's not going to get to use another ultimate this game. We've only got 30 seconds left. This round, I should say. So we're not going to get to combo it with that. So, in all likelihood, we're probably just going to use, Self-Destruct to get another mech. There we go. I don't know what happened right there. Just suddenly went off into my own little universe. So Zeki over here has really fucking tilted me because I've just seen what he said over here. Golda Limbs, DPS, playing Zarya. Funny fact about Zarya in general. First off, Zarya does generally do a lot of damage. It's not actually that hard to have 4 gold medals as Zarya if you're playing well. Moreover, though, when you do, like, a lot of AoE damage, you are generally going to have gold eliminations, because it also tilts me when, like, a Lucio goes, I have gold limbs. That actually just means you probably, like, tapped every kill that happened and did, like, 1 point of damage to them. Because if you do 1 point of damage, you get an elimination. So Zeki over here really tilting me, because he's just been right-clicking into everybody and getting all the eliminations. But he's like, oh, I have the most kills. No, you have the most assists, probably. But, whatever, you know. I hate when people do that. So, this right here is basically... Sorry, I'm dying suddenly. So this right here is basically get fucked. Get fucked. What are you gonna do? Right? You come around the corner, you see Reinhardt, and he just earth shatters you point blank. Unless you're also playing Reinhardt, there's not much you can do about that. So, we used our ult over there, basically just to get another mech. I kind of thought we were gonna die to Zenyatta right there, but he didn't actually kill us. Coming up to bully him, he's using Transcendence, not exactly a surprising outcome. We're basically fucked. We had to walk our way through the Earth Shatter. It didn't go well, as you might imagine, seeing as we couldn't block the Earth Shatter. Well, we could, but Zarya'd have to get really lucky. So we're in here right now, just doing our best. Mercy has just flown forward while a lot of scary things are happening. So Mercy's dead, but she was probably dead regardless. A rare occasion right here, where we've got to get back to the point to touch it. So we shift up, but the first tick of the Blizzard breaks our mech, which is very unusual. Blizzard actually killed 2 people in the kill feed right there. That's very unusual. Sometimes you see some unusual things in the kill feed. Earlier today, I saw a D.Va self-destruct that only killed a Tyre and Torbjorn turret. And I was like, that's one of the more interesting things I've seen in the kill feed. And in today as well, I also saw Genji killed Mercy with High Noon. And I was like, oh, that Mercy's probably really fucking upset about that one. So, anyway though, so yeah, we're currently getting fucked. We narrowly avoided getting more fucked, but we are still fucked. And fucked we were. Yeah, you know, that's gonna happen. So... I don't really feel like I know what the solution to this game is. I mean, we could be like we could have like focused people down better, and I think playing Winston would have just generally been better. But I don't know that that would have made any actual difference. I feel like too many parts in the machine are breaking down for it to have really worked out right here. So now our DPS are Symmetra and Torbjorn. And you are correct in what you say in that if we survive the first push, we will be literally unkillable. Because if you can get Torbjorn armor and Symmetra shields on you, that's 150 extra hit points right there. That makes a lot of heroes really fucking strong, believe it or not. So, yeah, if we can survive the first push, that'll be really sick. If they pick Pharah, we're gonna be really fucking sad, though. They picked Pharah because they are attacking on Eichenwald, so of course they picked Pharah. So we're gonna be pretty sad in the near future, I'll warn you that now. Yeah, you know, it's not gonna go very well. You might have noticed by the timer, it doesn't exactly go very well. So, we are standing here, you know. Reinhardt's gonna perform a fairly illegal maneuver right here. I understand what the attempt was, but wasn't really likely to work out. Our Symmetra has just died over there to Lucio, so this is already a bad start. Torbjorn's now lost his turret, so he's half of a hero currently. The Pharah probably just peeked it to death for free, because it probably wasn't positioned very well. And so we're currently having a bit of trouble. And it's about to all start falling apart. Someone's on the point behind us right now. It's Pharah, so we kind of have to come back and try to deal with that. But Mercy's already dead. Reinhardt just got killed over there. We're fucked, you know, unsurprisingly. We did ask who was on the point. It kind of doesn't matter. You're sort of just the one that has to go back and deal with it because Reinhardt can't. So you're the one that has to go back onto the point and try to fight whoever is back there as the off-tank. But, yeah, we're fucked, you know. Generally is going to be what happens when you've got Torbjorn Symmetra and they pick Pharah. And, then when you lose the Symmetra immediately, that's also not really gonna help matters. So we got pretty fucked right there. Senti, he left the game too soon, so he just got hit with the penalty. Sucks to suck. Could've waited like half an extra second, but you know, whatever. So let's watch play the game. It's Genji. It's Gongo the Bongo. I do like when I watch a Genji play the game and the dude isn't just, like, shaking like a fucking leaf the entire time. Like, chill the fuck out, you know? That's how you can tell the person their knees were weak and their palms were heavy when, play the game, they're twitching all over the place. So, didn't really address the question very much in the, email, did we, right there? So, this is just sort of the thing, I'll just talk about it now. So, this is sort of the thing with dive comps in general, not just on Eichenwald. You have to get your team to cooperate with you. You have to all go in together. And the goal is sort of just to focus down one or two people really quickly, and then just snowball that into more kills. That's more or less the objective of the dive comp. You know, shock and awe, basically, unsurprisingly. So, the hardest part is getting your team to actually go in with you, because this is why dive comps have always been difficult for people to actually do in solo queue. Up until the current season, basically whenever anybody said you want to do a dive comp, I would go, oh god, no. Because it's so hard to get your team to go with you. You have to go in together and actually kill someone. So, this is probably less of an issue for you personally, because you don't mind talking to people. In general, you're pretty good at talking to people, I find. You do have to be like, you have to kind of be like, alright, we're gonna go in, and we're gonna focus down X, and then we're gonna focus down Y. And if you can call out the people that are low HP, and that we should be trying to focus, then usually people are just gonna go with it if you just sort of say like, X is low, let's get X, you know, let's get Y, that kind of thing. Generally people are gonna go with it. The hardest thing is getting your team to go with you. If you feel like your team is not going in with you, The reason for that is usually that they are afraid of something on the enemy team. Like in this game, I feel like our team was probably afraid of getting walled off by Mei. So there's not that much we can do about that really as Winston, but the hard part is going to be like getting around that, because it didn't feel like they went in with us that decisively, though we didn't really go in on a great example right at the start where we went on the Lucio, who was kind of not that out of his way. So you kind of have to try and like mitigate the thing that's scaring people as much as possible, because that's going to be why they stop going in. So it's like, more textbook examples are, if there is a Torbjorn turret, that is generally going to make people afraid of going in. So you want to focus killing the Torbjorn turret as quickly as possible, and then your team won't be as afraid of going in. If there's a Bastion, same thing, right? So it's really just getting your team to go with you. You do sort of need to know who you want to prioritize and how you're going to get to them, basically. So you sort of have to, because the whole point of the dive comp is just to basically come out of the gate and dive on the important people as quickly as possible and kill them. So you have to sort of look at their team very quickly and be like, who is the most important person? It's generally going to be a support or one of their DPS. Like if there's a soldier up on the high ground, he's going to be your most important person to kill because he's probably going to be mostly by himself. You can get to him very quickly, and you can't just let him sit up on the high ground. So you have to sort of assess very quickly who the most important target is and try to get your team to help you kill that person. If you have a Zarya, this is generally easier because then you just want to be like, bubble me, I'm going to jump in. And then hopefully they bubble you and when you jump in. And then it's actually really hard to stop the Winston/D.Va from going in. Usually Winston. Winston's much better to combo with the Zarya because the Zarya bubble plus the Winston bubble makes it really hard to stop the Winston from diving on people. You can even sort of like dive into the enemy team and mostly get away with it usually because of the CC immunity. If there's something in the way that's going to make it difficult for you, you have to identify that quickly and try to get rid of that as quickly as possible. If there's a Symmetra turrets, then you have to break the Symmetra turrets as quickly as possible. If you're playing D.Va or Winston, you should prioritize these because these are two heroes that are good at killing Symmetra turrets for the most part. I don't know why I say for the most part, like there's some kind of conditional modifier to that. They are like two of the best heroes at breaking Symmetra turrets. Winston's the best, obviously. If there's a Torbjorn turret, you have to try and get your team to actually like help you break that. If there's a Bastion, you have to try and get your team to help you deal with that. If you're playing Winston, and there's a Bastion, you want to avoid the Bastion and just try to play around him as much as possible unless your team can kill him. If you're D.Va, you can be like, alright, I'll defense matrix, let's go get the Bastion. So the idea is you gotta identify really quickly. Yeah, let's try and like be a little bit more concise about this instead of rambling aimlessly like I always do. So you want to identify the most important target as quickly as possible and try to get your team to dive on them. If there is something hazardous in the way, you have to mitigate that as much as possible, be it Symmetra turrets, a Torbjorn turret, a Bastion, you have to try and get your team to get rid of that as quickly as possible. If there's a Mei, try and like bait the Mei's wall out. If there's another route you can take, try and go that way. If you don't think you can kill the Symmetra turrets or you're just going to get fucked up trying, for example, if you're on Anubis and there's like a Junkrat in the tunnel on the left and you think there's Symmetra turrets in there, just don't go through that door, go through the right door instead. Even if you were gonna go through the left door, and that's what you would arrange with your team, just go, we're gonna get fucked up in there, let's go right instead, and then you just navigate that whole hazardous area. And then, if you can navigate that area, then that's a lot easier to actually get things done. So, the hardest thing is just getting your team to go with you. If you are okay with talking to people, and your communication is a strong point of yours, then that is generally not as difficult, though is still dependent on your team, obviously. I mean, ultimately it's all kind of dependent on your team, but this is more so than anything else. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And you do just sort of want to know the best route to take, really. Like on Eichenwald, I find going left is easier than going right. Dorado, which is another map you mentioned, it's easier to go up onto the high ground and then down the staircase rather than just through the choke point. Because if you're a dive comp, you don't want to be hanging around in choke points. You want to get around the choke point as quickly as possible. That's the whole reason that dive comps work, they can just get past the choke point really quickly. So you don't want to ever be caught in a position where you're like you're posturing in front of a choke point, because that's just not what dive comps are meant for. They're meant to just go in as quickly as possible. As, you know, is kind of implied by the name. So hopefully that answers your question about how to play dive comp on Eichenwald. Just sort of in general, these are like broad concepts that apply in general, but hopefully that sort of helps you with Eichenwald as well. For this game specifically, we could focus targets down better. Pick the important person and then just try to bully that person around. Try not to just switch back and forth between multiple people during a fight, because that's just usually going to lead to you doing a little bit of damage to everybody and not actually killing anybody, which we did sort of see earlier. And the other thing is, don't feel like you have to switch just because things are going badly, because just because it's going badly doesn't necessarily mean that you're playing the wrong hero. It could just mean that things aren't not been executed properly. Like, I think Winston was a much better pick than D.Va in this game, because you're better at fighting all the people. Yeah, we talked about that already. So I do think Winston was better. I feel like you probably thought you had to change to somebody else because it wasn't working out. But I feel like D.Va was a much worse pick than Winston for the team we were facing. So don't feel like you have to switch just because things are going badly. It's not always the pick. Sometimes it's just not executing it correctly. And that's sort of it. I mean, it was kind of like, you know, it didn't go very well. Pretty short game overall. So hopefully that answered your question about dive comps on Eichenwald. If not, you know, let me know. And I'll try to elaborate further. Thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions in general, also, just feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.